Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Monday, April 7th, 2025 in the space and time continuum. I usually record this on Saturday or Sunday, usually Sunday afternoon. But it's Monday night now, 7:30 at night. Sometimes you need a day. This has been a freaky week, as you all know, and the energy's been weird, and there was a lot of things just going on kind of personally for me, not problems, but things I had to do. Also, if you're watching this on video, my Lake Minnetonka map here behind me completely collapsed off the wall. So it's like my set here was in shambles. So anyway, I took a day off partially for mental health. I advise you to do the same thing when you need it. We got to take care of ourselves. We got to stay strong. Sometimes that means, watching comedy on TV instead of doing what you normally do. Taking a little bit of time off, taking a little bit of time to take care of yourself and give yourself a little bit of a break. We are under immense pressure, all of us. Now, you know me, I'm very optimistic, and we're going to go through some things that I think are very interesting that I hope make you feel a little better. This is them. They're mob. Trump's a pseudo mob boss, right? I say amateur or pseudo because no real mob boss would dress like he does in a very ill-fitting suit that looks like he's kind of camping in a tent with a stupid red, made in China, by the way, tie going down lower than, well, I guess it's not a challenge to go lower than, I guess I have referred to it as his popsicle before. A lot of people use part of his anatomy as a popsicle. Some of those people are starting to turn on him finally. He seems oblivious and kind of in a daze. I don't know. I mean, we all speculate on what's going on with him. I'm just surprised that he's still functional whatsoever. But he really hasn't talked about the stock market crashing. Today he said, I saw something. I was going to find the clip, but, God, do we want to hear his voice? I'll imitate him as well as I can remember. I guess the baseball team who won the World Series, the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers. I don't know anything about baseball, but they came to the White House. Shame on them, by the way. And he was trying to talk like he knows anything about baseball because he doesn't know anything about anything. And he said something like, and they've lost all of their healthy arm. The arms are healthy. They're not as healthy. They lost their arms. They're healthy. And I guess we're talking about sports. We were talking sports and baseball. Baseball to be exact is baseball. And I guess pitchers to be exact. Their arms, they've lost them. Go find the clip about him talking about the healthy arms, LA Dodgers. Put it in YouTube. I only saw it once, and I'm like, oh, God damn it. I'm turning this guy off. But, yeah, he went golfing. The only headlines that he put out were him announcing that he won the prize again at his own golf course because he cheats. So the whole world is like, where is our president? We don't have a president. We don't have a United States president right now. He's supposed to be making statements to the citizens of the United States, his constituents, when they're scared shitless about their whole economic life. People losing their retirement plans, people losing, some people losing everything. This stock market crash cannot be overstated about how severe it is, how serious it is, and how bad it is. I don't care much about the stock market. But you know, a stock market crash worldwide can hurt the economy. My business was hurt during the pandemic that Trump mismanaged because of supply chain issues. Now, of course, supply chain issues could very well be affected here. I'm kind of just rambling here. I'm not as organized as usual either because I kind of took a mental day. And then today it was a very busy day running my business. Here are some notes I started writing at the beginning of the week. YouTube is number one in Nielsen TV rankings. I wrote that on Monday. Seems like 2 years ago now. YouTube beat out Disney in February. In February, they were 11.6% of all television views. YouTube. Not even really a television, right? But they beat out ESPN, Disney, and other Fox, everybody. So this media shift, months and months ago, I did a show here talking about the media shift. And it is severe now. Midas Touch, again, is at number one. Joe Rogan and people who were at number one are falling down in the charts. People are not trusting CNN and NBC and CBS and ABC and because they're not reporting anything. They're not reporting what's going on. For instance, one of the most interesting stories, in my view, is we heard that the Trump administration and Elon Musk or whoever fired almost all of the investigators general from the government, right? From the DOJ, I don't know, from the Pentagon, from all of the different elements of government. Get rid of the investigators general. Sorry. And that's because they didn't want to be checked up on. Yet, I don't know, a Pentagon investigator general announced that they are investigating Pete Hegseth and the Signal Gate incident and all of these things. I thought all the investigators general were fired. But there still seems to be one, and there's an investigation going on the cabinet member, Secretary of Defense. That's in the normal world, that would have been a huge story. The Pentagon is investigating their supposed leader, cabinet member of the president, the Secretary of Defense. So you don't hear that as a story in the news, do you? You can find it on Midas Touch and other outlets on YouTube that are trying to do a serious job and actually are doing a very serious job of being actual journalists and trying to get reports to us. But we're not hearing it from our normal media, which has now become corporate corporate media. Here's another thing I wrote. Tim, who's the guy who has a shop next to ours in our business building, which is one of the old Tonka Toys buildings, by the way. Lake Minnetonka is the map behind me. A lot of people don't realize Tonka Toys started in Mound, Minnesota, which is a small town on Lake Minnetonka. Tonka Toys is named after Lake Minnetonka. And both of my grandmas used to work there. And now I work in one of the old Tonka Toys buildings. Sadly, Tonka Toys moved down to Mexico in 1981. You know, the Ronald Reagan era, right? But Tim, our next door neighbor, right across the hallway from us, in one of the old Tonka Toys factories, which is now made into a bunch of different businesses, a lot of small businesses cordoned off by very thin walls. By the way, you can hear everything. But anyway, Tim has it's a Ford, must be an F1 million. It's so huge. I know there's the F100 and the F150. I think, and even bigger, this has got to be the Ford F1 million pickup truck. He's always had a MAGA hat, Make America Great Again, red hat, on his dashboard looking out his front window. It makes me want to key his paint as I walk by, every time I walk by. Maybe throw a rock at his windshield. After the tariffs were passed on Wednesday, Heidi noticed, took a photo actually, Tim changed his hat. Now he's got some hat about fishing. No more MAGA hat in Tim's Ford F1 million pickup. Huh? He's losing the MAGAs, is what's happening. Yeah. He is losing the MAGAs, and we're going to take a little bit of an early break here because I want to change into another mode. I want to talk about how distracted we are by this tariff thing. Now, obviously, it's a major thing. You would think he would be doing something else to try and distract from the tariffs. But there are actually worse things, in my opinion, going on. Yes, the economy is serious, and the well-being of all the farmers in the country is very serious, but there are some really horrible things going on, and there are also some really good things going on. But right now, all anyone can talk about are the tariffs. Not wrong to do. I'm going to give you my insight of my friend Doug, who's smarter than me in a lot of these things. He says he's not been into politics until more recently, but he would be very good in political messaging as a consultant or something. He definitely follows finances more than I do because I'm Evel Knievel when it comes to money. If I got it, what can I buy? What can I buy? Doug is more prudent. He's got a plan for moving ahead. I don't. Luckily, Heidi takes care of our finances, because if I did, I don't know how many motorcycles and more guitars I might have. I don't know. Anyway, you can tell I'm still kind of mentally just barely here, right? As I'm sure a lot of us feel like after this week. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about some of these things that these tariffs are distracting from, and some of them are good and necessary. And a couple interesting things that you would think would be in the news but aren't, when we come back on A Satellite View. And we are back on A Satellite View. If you like the music you hear, go to toddmikkelson.com, press the music button, and you can find a bunch of music that I've written over the years. And also, go to my Instagram and follow me. We also have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and put in, as a search in YouTube, A Satellite View Podcast, and you can find our YouTube channel where we're posting these videos in their entirety. We're a day behind this week because I needed a mental day. Obviously, the way I'm performing today, I could have used another mental health day, right? Anyway. 3 innocent children were taken by ICE, not for crimes, but as victims of the Trump regime's ethnic cleansing. Now they sit in a detention center, terrified and alone. No due process, no answers. Just desks still empty, teachers still waiting, classmates still asking why. A small family taken away, a woman and her 3 children, in Tom Homan's hometown in Upper New York. He doesn't care, though. He doesn't care. What color were these children would be his only question, I believe. People being kidnapped off the streets of Russia? No. Of the United States of America. They have no idea why. You might have heard of the stylist. I think he was a hairstylist. He was telling them he was gay while they were shaving his head after they terrorized him. Terrorists. Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio. Terrorists. We've heard of this happening in places like Russia and other countries that we think would, well, that's not here. To me, this is way worse than the tariffs and ruining the economy on purpose by the mob, pseudo poorly dressed mob boss. These stories are scary as fuck. So yeah, to me, they're way worse than the tariffs. And finally, the rich people feeling their money being lost. That's the main difference this week. Poor people being fired by the Trump administration and Elon Musk for the last few months. The attack has only been on poor people. This week, it turned on to the rich people, which is important. So this is where my friend Doug and we had a discussion, and he said, Barack Obama was talking about what I just talked about. He was talking about immigration issues and these Venezuelans being kidnapped off the streets. And Doug said, this is, like this Wednesday or Thursday, he said, we got to just keep pounding on the finances because sadly, the MAGATs is what I've always been calling them. Republicans. They don't care about brown people being kidnapped off the streets. They don't care about anybody being kidnapped off the streets as long as it's not them. But they do care if they lose their money. Follow the money is what Watergate was all about, right? Doug is right. We need to just keep pounding on this. And of course, that is what's being done in the media. But we're also missing good news, like all of these protests. More than 5 million people protesting in one day. Chuck Schumer would be like, I don't know where to go for the protest. Where do you park? Where do all these people park? But we're not Chuck Schumer anymore, are we? 2 different estimates in St. Paul at the Capitol in Minnesota. The low estimate was 25,000. The high estimate was 80,000. The 80,000 was actually by a kind of a right-wing television station here in the Twin Cities. They said 80,000 people. NPR, Minnesota Public Radio, said 25,000 people. Either way, wow. a lot of small towns. There was one town that has the population of 8,000, and they said about 3,000 were at their protest. Even here in the Twin Cities, anywhere from 25 to 80,000 people in St. Paul, and about 20 miles out here to the west in Plymouth, Minnesota, there was at least 1,000 people at their, smaller, it's like a suburb of Minneapolis. So even close to the big cities in the suburbs, 1,000 people showing up. One person in a very small red city, town even, not city, I can't remember where. I think it was in Pennsylvania, but it was a rural, small town. This person was like, I feel like I'm the only Democrat who lives in this town, so I'd be surprised if there were 2 more people, but otherwise I'm going to go stand on the street with a sign. And this person said about 300 people in that small red town showed up to protest on Saturday, this last Saturday, April 5th, the hands-off protests. I'm sure you've seen video and photos. Insane, all around the world, actually. The world knows that it's not us, it's just Trump. So what do you do to distract from that? I don't know. Put a 35% tariff on every country in the in the world, on planet Earth. Small countries that we maybe buy a small amount of something that we can't, like there's a country that we pretty much only buy diamonds from because they have diamonds there. We don't have any place where we can mine for diamonds in the United States. But Trump is like, hey, we bought $35 worth of diamonds from you. You got to buy $35 worth of something from us. The reason he did that is because he's a fucking idiot. Anyway. So, also the elections this last week in Wisconsin and Florida. No, the Democrats didn't win in Florida, but Trump won by 30%, and these Democrats lost by like 12 and 15%, cutting it in half. So you've heard the right wing talk about the deep state's taken us over. What if the deep state is some people in the Pentagon? Pete Hegseth is a smarmy little lowest ranked person. Yeah, he joined the military, but he was the lowest ranked. He's got tattoos about white supremacy and white nationalism. He's a piece of shit. Smarmy little. But Trump makes him the boss of the Joint Chiefs. He makes him the boss of the Pentagon. In the military, you earn your rank over years of period of time. Pete Hegseth had the lowest rank, and then he went and worked for Fox News. And then Trump made him the Secretary of Defense, and he fired a Joint Chief of Staff who should be the Joint Chief of Staff. The guy they're trying to replace him with now sounds like maybe he's a good guy, but he does not have the ranking. He's not worked up through the ranks. The military despises that kind of thing. The military has no respect for Pete Hegseth. Yeah, I'm sure there are some maggots in the military, too, who think Trump is a genius, but there are also a lot of conservative military personnel, from all of the different branches who resent the fuck out of that. There's a very interesting story by a guy who was a historical professor at West Point. He tells these stories about basically like Deep Throat 2.0 in the Pentagon. They are the ones who included Jeffrey Goldberg. What if Mike Waltz is telling the truth when he says, I didn't add him to the chat? What if, some people who know how to manipulate phones. The meeting both Mike Waltz and Pete Hegseth were at a restaurant near the White House on their personal phones. Very easy to hack into that. What if people who worked in the Pentagon who know how to do that did that? Why was, when Elon Musk was on his way to the Pentagon a couple of weeks ago, when he was in the car on his way to the Pentagon, it got leaked and released to the New York Times. Not days before, but Donald Trump signed off on a meeting in the Pentagon. There was a whole PowerPoint demonstration going to be it's called The Tank, big secret room in the Pentagon. Elon Musk was going to be briefed on our war plans to protect Taiwan from a Chinese invasion, a Chinese takeover. Elon Musk, not elected to anything. Pete Hegseth was all too eager to show off how cool. Look, Elon, look at what we can do now, man. We can vaporize these dudes, dude. I mean, he was so looking forward to showing off to Elon Musk, who, of course, I'm sure he thinks is the smartest guy in the world. In reality, Elon Musk is proving to be almost at the bottom, almost the dumbest, possibly dumbest, definitely in the top 5, or what do you call it, the bottom 5? Anyway, it got canceled when Elon Musk was on his way there. He got diverted into Pete Hegseth's office, where Pete Hegseth had to say, oh man, it got canceled. The president canceled it. Because the president saw the New York Times announce it, and he immediately tried to turn it around. And then he tried to cover up for it and said it never happened. Nobody cleared that meeting. Elon Musk would walk out of the room if he heard anyone mention the name China. I know, Elon. But the New York Times had the actual document that Donald Trump signed. He signed off on it. Some of this stuff, again, it's not being put through the channels of journalism. There's also people talking about, this was put out by somebody called Atlanta Democrat, Elon Musk involved in conspiracy to hack the 2024 elections and today's elections, talking about the Wisconsin elections last week. Then it goes, whistleblowers. Word is that several Starlink employees are talking to bipartisan senators, divulging the election hack information in exchange for immunity from prosecution, according to an inspector general who is investigating the allegations. They don't name the inspector general. So is it true? I don't know. It makes sense, though. How does Elon Musk treat his employees? Then he makes them do high crimes and misdemeanors, and they don't want to be prosecuted. They're looking for immunity from prosecution. Hey, here's what Elon made us do last October after he set up his more than 250 satellite array in low orbit over the United States. I've talked about that in past shows. What's going on? What's going on? I think we're going to find out more about these things pretty soon. And I think this is part of why Trump is doing the tariffs. I think he's trying to burn it all down before he, gets forced out. That's what I think. That's what I sincerely, truly think. But I don't want to put these stories in stone because I don't know if they're true. Some of these other stories about the people getting sent to El Salvador, they sound insane. And then we find out, an inspector general in the Pentagon is running an investigation on the Secretary of Defense. That sounds like a crazy story, too. That has been mentioned in some mainstream media. These other stories haven't. But some other important stories haven't either. I want to mention Cory Booker for doing what he's doing. I think these things are important. We got to keep this up. They want us to be scared and crazed. They want the chaos to be completely over the top. That's what they're trying to do. But what we've got to do is what more than 5 million people did on Saturday. We got to keep doing that. We got to keep doing what Cory Booker's doing, what AOC and Bernie Sanders and some other legislators who are really kicking ass. And they're being recognized by their constituents in very high regard because, hey, there are Republicans who are not doing their job, Republican Congress people. Like my friend Doug says, he won't feel good about any of this until more Republican elected officials turn against Trump. I think that is beginning to happen. It's mostly, sadly, because of the tariffs and not because of people being kidnapped and sent to concentration camps in other countries, like the Nazis did. Elon Musk is a Nazi. Donald Trump is a Nazi. And if you say, well, you can't call him a Nazi, then I'll say, well, then why are they doing exactly what the Nazis did? There's a showdown going on right now. They admitted that they made a mistake in sending this guy that seems to be completely innocent of any of their allegations, but they still kidnapped him and deported him to a concentration camp in El Salvador anyway. And now they're saying, well, we can't get him back because El Salvador has him. You gave him to El Salvador. It's beyond non-human horribleness. And, all the world's a stage and we're merely players. Well, Donald Trump is the villain. And he's showing us how bad it can get. He wants us to see how bad it can get because he wants us to capitulate. We won't. These protests went off perfectly. No violence. Nobody hurt. Nobody arrested. Nobody killed. No law enforcement injured. No protesters injured. No people driving their cars into protesters. Nothing bad happened with 5 million people protesting. We need to keep that up. So this is very interesting. These are very interesting times. I don't know if I'm making you feel better, but we're going through the thick of it right now. And perhaps that's necessary for us to see how to make it the way it should be. We're learning that we have been neglecting things for too long. Things are not as they should be. Let's strive to make them as they should be. We're being shown by the grand master villain of all time how bad it is and how bad it can get and how vulnerable and delicate the system is. Let's learn from this. I believe we are. And I am astounded by people's reactions and very proud of people. My friend Doug and his wife they were at this protest. And they were going to go either to Boston or Providence, Rhode Island. I don't know which one they ended up going to, but they've never done anything like that before. People are finding this important now. People are getting engaged. People are learning about it. I don't think Trump expected that. I don't think Trump expected people to actually get engaged. So he cannot have control over us. We will not give him our fear. Let's not. Let's hang in there. And if you need a mental day or two, take them. Let this be a lesson that if you need two, you should take the second one. Yes, I get down and depressed about this stuff too. I'm very optimistic. I remain that way. But I just needed a break. God damn it. Yes, thank you so much for sticking with us here at A Satellite View. next week, hopefully everything will be back to normal. Hopefully my map won't fall down again. I think I did a better job of putting it back up after it fell. And I'll do a show next Sunday and be my normal self again. But remember, we're all in this together. Everyone is in this with us. Be comforted by the fact that these hardworking, smart people like AOC, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, all these great people on Midas Touch on YouTube, me and you, we're all in this together. We're helping each other out. We're supporting each other. We will remain doing that. We'll keep doing that. And I will keep trying to gather us all here so that we can discuss some things that you're maybe not hearing in the normal news, dig into some things, see what's going on. I do see some astounding surprises happening very soon. And hopefully we'll be talking about that next week. So join me then. Thank you for being here.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.